Hello, and this is my video presentation to show the workings of my custom rig for the Demon Dominance Wall model. And as you can see, I've got my model here and my rig. Main concerns were triple jointed legs, where prior I've only done human, and also wings, which are an extra joint which people don't tend to have these days, and they gonna need a curl in or something of the sort. Also my layers, each one's named to the corresponding piece essentially, and all my controls are in one layer, which keeps them all in one place instead of being all over the place. So to start off with, we shall look at the IK legs, which also have a stretchy system in. As you can see, triple IK, 5 controls, 3 IKs, very easy to set up, and a lot of freedom of movement. Mid joint looks at the knee swivel. Further the distance, the more control I've got on that angle, as well as the fact that the knee joint's not going to twist so soon. And as you can see, it gives me plenty of control options, and does most of the work for me. Stretchy legs also help enhance any animations the animator may or may not want to do. And one thing to note is the stretchy bone system only appears to stretch once the legs are to be straight. Would have liked to included like bent stretchy limbs, but that at the time it just didn't seem possible. And as we all know, squash and stretch are important factors when it comes down to making believable animations. Right, so now we shall look at the spine, which was created using a spline IK with about 8 or so bones. And as you can see, we have a waist control, which offers all kind of degrees of movements, twisting, bending, etc. Or we could always select specific points which offer yet more control. And as you can see, once again, stretchy, so we can always exaggerate torso movements. And also, on top of this, a useful little feature, once again, bring up the legs. The waist controller can also bend the legs and see if there's plantar keys on the feet, which all in all is pretty useful. One trade-off with the spine IK is, did I want more spine bones versus how am I going to skin this? Because each little bone is going to be controlling a certain amount of verts determined on the ratio of weighting. Next up, the arms. As you can see, opted for the blend system. Got the IK movement, and we have a custom attribute slider, which determines how much of the FK and IK influences its movement. And during the naming, I included the line which gives a better visual representation of that influence. Also, you've got the wrist fully rotating, and various finger controls. Used Y parameters, which allowed me to only have one segment rotating and then influencing the child rotation. And then also it allowed me to control the speed at which any of them rotated at any time. Under 1 being slower, greater than 1 being quicker. And I've done that for all fingers, including the left hand. Next up will be my wings. So let's bring them up. Left wing. So here, opted for IKs. Did do a couple of experiments, didn't like them at first, but here we go. got some reaction manager automating the movement of the wings via this controller. Use the right ring for reference, which is in the name. One limitation I did notice with the reaction manager was the master and the slave had to be controlled using the same axis. But as you can see, decent amount of movement, and also controls for each wing's fingers essentially. It was easy to consider these hands, as it made rigging them just a lot easier. Did at one point have these controllers controlling both fingers, or both left and right, but I couldn't get that result with all of them, so I opted for renaming these modifiers left wing and right wing, therefore given quick and easy reference. With the wings, I did originally experiment using spline IKs, as I felt the IK was originally too rigid. The problem with this though is, as you can see, instant flipping, well, full movement from that one bone, which doesn't work. It's difficult to straighten it out and bend it the other way since it follows a path, and the stretching is just irrelevant and could be done in better ways basically. Also, the bending inwards isn't smooth, or smooth enough to my liking. And one minor note is the IK starting point. I did want it down there originally to be able to rotate this shoulder bone so I could have it like wings flapping, but due to the nature of the IKs, this simply wouldn't work, and the IK would stay in place, and then this bone would simply just not control the rest. So, improvements. I would have liked to included facial bones, but I did find a lot of the time they'd use facial joystick controllers even, which would control each individual bone on the face in like determined ways, and it looked very effective, but I just can't seem to figure out how to bring joystick controls and apply them to my rig. Facial bones also would be a bonus, simply because right now he is stuck in quite an angry, scary demon face. On top of this, I would have liked a control to control the head FKs more. I did already have IK, but that simply wasn't working. But as a little kind of escape from this, I did go into the bone tools and extend the height so they'd stick out the mesh, and this still offers the control needed. Bring the mesh on via the skin. As you can see, the head bones aren't too intrusive. They could be done better, but we still get the movements, and we can still see how it affects the mesh. As you can see, the skinning by and large works. There's a few tweaks that could still be done with, but I did find the bulk of the mesh to be problematic, although the armor plates were helpful. I would like to also perhaps include the bone system in the cloth, but for now it's also fully weighted to the base of the spine, and each respective side has a slight weight to each leg. My weighting method also for this mesh was the weight tool. Favoured this over the paint weights, namely because I found it would slow my computer down quite drastically, and it was just quite cumbersome with so many, like with all the bones. Even though the weight tool, having so many vertices, about 19k, did prove rather time consuming, quite a hassle to select. Anyway, Thank you for watching, and I'll finish off with a short animation showing a few movements of the character skinned. Thank you for your time. Would like just to finish off quickly with some sites I used. Paul Neal's has some very good tutorials. Twist bones I would have liked to have included, but I couldn't think on how to skin them towards the mesh. Also, Ahmed Shalabay's portfolio shows various systems such as the blending, but in this case for the legs, and spine IKs, very helpful. And also a note about planted keys that I couldn't appear to actually use when animating the mesh. Anyway, once again, thanks.